chair was cold. Industrial steel bolted to concrete designed for one purpose only: to hold someone who didn't want to be held. Kira Brennan's wrist burned against the zip ties. Blood dripped from her split lip, pooling in the hollow of her collarbone before sliding down her tactical vest. Her left eye had swollen nearly shut, a purple-black mass that throbbed with each heartbeat. 3 ribs on her right side were cracked, maybe broken. Every breath felt like swallowing glass. The man standing before her smiled, a gentleman's smile on a killer's face. "Who's going to save you now?" His voice was soft, southern, the kind of voice that belonged on a porch swing, not in a warehouse that smelled of oil and blood and approaching death. Dominic Ashford, former Delta Force, current Ghost, professional murderer for whoever paid the highest price. He raised his Sig Sauer P226, the barrel finding its home against her forehead. Cold metal on hot skin, the last sensation many people ever felt. Your team is captured or dead. Your commander betrayed you. Your dog is caged. Your mentor is 90 miles away. He leaned closer, close enough that she could smell his cologne. Expensive, refined, the scent of a man who'd gotten rich on other people's graves. "So I'll ask again, who's going to save you?" Kira lifted her head, met his pale blue eyes with her own steel gray ones, and through cracked lips, through blood and pain, and the weight of 27 years of unanswered questions, she smiled. "I'm a Brennan. I'm a SEAL. I don't need saving." She spat blood at his feet. "I am the weapon." Somewhere deep in the compound, metal shrieked, the sound of a cage being torn apart by something that refused to stay caged. Then a howl, raw, desperate, furious. 85 pounds of Belgian Malinois was coming, and God help anyone who stood in his way. 48 hours earlier, the Pacific dawn broke cold and gray over Coronado Beach, painting the waves in shades of gunmetal and slate. Lieutenant Kira Brennan's boots hit the sand in steady rhythm, her breath forming small clouds in the 50-degree air. Beside her, keeping perfect pace, ran Titan, 85 pounds of Belgian Malinois, all muscle and purpose. His tan and black coat rippled with each stride, ears pricked forward, tongue lolling in pure canine joy. 5:30 in the morning, the time when warriors wake while the world sleeps. Kira's auburn hair whipped behind her in a tight ponytail as she pushed into mile 3. Her steel gray eyes fixed on the horizon, but her mind drifted somewhere else, somewhere 27 years in the past. She could still hear her father's voice carried on the wind like a ghost from the desert. "Never quit, Kira. When your body screams to stop, when your mind begs for mercy, you push harder. That's what makes a warrior." Commander Garrett Brennan had taught her that, had lived it, had died for it. Her hand touched the small photograph tucked in her chest pocket. Even through the fabric of her PT shirt, she could feel its outline. Her father in his dress, whites that proud smile, those same gray eyes she saw every time she looked in a mirror. Taken 3 days before Desert Storm, 3 weeks before the official report said friendly fire had stolen him from her. She'd been 6 months old, too young to remember him, old enough to spend a lifetime missing him. Titan sensed the shift in her mood. Dogs always do. He pressed closer to her leg, his shoulder touching her thigh, offering comfort the only way he knew how. Pure, unwavering presence. "Good boy," Kira whispered, her voice tight. They reached the 6-mile marker, a weathered piece of driftwood driven into the sand, their turnaround point every morning for 3 years. Kira stopped, hands on knees, sucking in the salt air. Titan sat immediately, tongue-lolling eyes bright with an intelligence that sometimes seemed almost human. 20 yards away, half buried in the dunes, stood a memorial stone. Gray granite, simple inscription, the words that had defined her entire existence. Kira walked to it like she did every morning, like a pilgrimage, like penance for a sin she hadn't committed, but had inherited nonetheless. Commander Garrett Brennan, 1961, 1991, beloved father, true warrior. She knelt, touching the cold stone. Titan pressed against her side, silent sentinel. Morning, Dad. Her voice was barely a whisper. Still fighting your fight. The sun crested the horizon, turning the Pacific into liquid gold. Somewhere out there beyond the waves, beyond the endless blue, that's where her father had gone. Kuwait, Iraq, the desert that swallowed men whole and gave back only dust and lies. A lie she'd believed for 27 years. Friendly fire, tragic accident, wrong coordinates from an adjacent artillery unit. That's what the official report said. That's what the Navy told her mother. That's what was carved into the record books. But Kira had never quite believed it. Something in her gut, some inherited warrior's instinct, had always whispered that the truth was darker, deeper, buried in classified files that would never see daylight. She stood, brushed sand from her knees, and ran back. Always forward, never quit. Sergeant Major Caldwell Webb's compound sat 3 miles inland, a fortress disguised as a California ranch house, complete with weathered wooden fencing, a gravel driveway lined with desert plants, and enough surveillance equipment hidden in the landscaping to make the Pentagon jealous. Everyone called him Stone, had for 40 years, ever since a young SEAL trainee had watched him take a bullet to the chest in Grenada and keep fighting like nothing happened. Man's made of stone, someone had muttered. The name stuck. Kira pulled her Jeep into the driveway at 0700 precisely. Titan leaped from the passenger seat before she'd fully stopped, already heading for the door nose, working the air. You smell the bacon, don't you? Kira called after him. The dog's tail wagged. The only answer needed. Weekly breakfast with Stone. A tradition that started when Kira joined the teams 5 years ago. The old man had sought her out, specifically had requested her for K9 handler. Training had taken her under his wing without explanation. It was only later she learned why. He'd served with her father. The door opened before she could knock. Stone filled the frame. 6'2", 200 pounds of gristle and scar tissue, with a gray beard that would make a Viking jealous. At 67, he moved like a man 20 years younger. But his eyes gave away his age. They'd seen too much, carried too many ghosts. Lieutenant, his voice rumbled like gravel in a cement mixer. You're 30 seconds late. Traffic. Liar! You were at the memorial again. Kira didn't bother denying it. Stone could read her like a book written in large print. Can't live in the past, kid. Says the man who keeps a shrine to 3 wars in his living room? Stone's laugh echoed through the doorway. Touché. Get in here before the eggs get cold. The living room was indeed a museum. Photographs covered every wall, arranged with military precision. Young men in green and tan and desert camouflage smiled from frames that had yellowed with age. Grenada 1983, Panama 1989, Desert Storm 1991. Faces frozen in time, some still living, many not. In the center above the fireplace hung a photograph Kira had seen 1,000 times, but still couldn't look at without feeling something crack inside her chest. Her father, 29 years old, standing beside a younger Stone, both of them grinning M16s slung across their backs. Kuwait desert stretching behind them like an ocean of sand. 3 days before Garrett Brennan died. Coffee's fresh, Stone said, moving to the kitchen. Eggs are scrambled. Bacon's crispy. Biscuits are from a can because I'm not a damn magician. Kira followed him tight and patting behind. The kitchen was military precise. Everything in its place, angles squared away, no wasted space. On the counter, partially disassembled, lay an M1 pistol. The finish was worn smooth from decades of handling, the grips marked with notches that told stories Stone rarely shared. Cleaning day, Kira asked. Every day is cleaning day. Stone poured coffee into 2 mugs. Black, no sugar, strong enough to strip paint. This particular lady has been with me since Grenada. Carried her through Panama, through the desert, through more firefights than I care to count. He slid a plate across the table. You don't abandon weapons that saved your life. Kira sat. Titan immediately took position beside her chair, close enough to touch, but not begging. Professional even off duty. Stone eased into his chair with a slight wince. Old injuries making themselves known as they always did in the morning. Knee again, Kira asked. Hip. Took shrapnel in Panama. Doctors said I'd be in a wheelchair by 50. He forked eggs into his mouth. Prove those bastards wrong. They ate in comfortable silence for a moment. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, illuminating dust motes that danced like tiny spirits. On the windowsill sat a compass. Brass tarnished, old enough to be an antique. Kira nodded toward it. The Grenada compass. The very same. Stone wiped his mouth with a napkin. October 1983. Navigation equipment died during insertion. We had nothing but this compass, the stars, in pure spite. Brought 6 men home who shouldn't have made it. He stood, retrieved the compass, and placed it on the table between them. The brass caught the light, showing decades of scratches and dents. History written in metal. Your generation has GPS, Stone said, sitting back down. Satellites tracking your every move. Computers calculating your routes. Technology doing the thinking for you. He tapped the compass. My generation had this. The stars, and our wits. GPS is faster, Kira said, picking up the compass, feeling its weight. Solid, real, reliable. GPS can be jammed. Stars can't. Stone leaned back, studying her with those ancient warrior's eyes. When the technology fails, and it always fails eventually, old school knowledge saves your ass. You remember that? Kira turned the compass over in her hands. There was something almost sacred about it, a connection to a time when men navigated by the heavens and survived by pure skill. What's eating you this morning? Stone asked. And don't say nothing. I can read you like yesterday's newspaper. Kira set down her fork. Outside, birds sang in the California sunshine. Inside, ghosts whispered in the shadows. Do you ever wonder, she said slowly, what really happened that day, February 28th, 1991? Stone's expression didn't change, but something flickered behind his eyes. Something old and painful. Every day. The official report says friendly fire, artillery strike from an adjacent unit, wrong coordinates, tragic accident. Kira's voice hardened. You were there, 200 yards away. You heard everything on the radio. I heard enough. Then tell me the truth. Not the sanitized version they put in the files. Stone was silent for a long moment. His hand moved unconsciously to touch the photograph on the wall. Garrett Brennan, forever young, forever smiling. Your father, he began, voice rough as sandpaper on steel, was the best operator I ever served with. Smart, tough, dedicated, but more than that, he was honest. Honest to a fault. Stone's jaw tightened. Couldn't ignore wrongdoing. Couldn't look away from injustice. That's what made him a great SEAL, and that's what got him killed. Kira's heart hammered against her ribs. What do you mean? Week before he died, Garrett came to me, said he'd stumbled onto something, wouldn't give details, said it was safer if I didn't know. Stone's eyes grew distant, lost in a memory from nearly 3 decades past. But I saw it in his eyes. Fear. Real fear. The kind you only feel when you realize your enemy isn't across the battlefield. It's right beside you. Someone on our side, Kira whispered. That's what I suspected. Could never prove it. Stone's hands clenched into fists on the table. The official investigation was quick. Too quick. Questions got shut down. My report got buried. And everyone who was involved in that operation either died transferred or retired within 6 months. The implications hung in the air like smoke from a distant fire. I've spent 27 years wondering if I could have saved him, Stone continued. If I'd pushed harder, fought louder, made more noise. It's not your fault. Maybe, maybe not. He met her eyes, and in that moment, Kira saw the weight he'd carried since before she could walk. But I made a promise to your father. Last time I saw him the night before that mission, he said something I've never forgotten. Stone's voice dropped, became almost gentle. He said, if anything happens to me, watch over Kira. Make sure she knows her old man died for something that mattered. So that's what I've done. That's what I'll keep doing until they plant me in the ground next to him. Kira's throat tightened. She reached across the table, squeezed his weathered hand. The hand that had pulled triggers, saved lives, carried coffins. Thank you. Stone squeezed back, then cleared his throat, roughly pulling away. Emotions were ammunition to be rationed carefully. Now eat your damn eggs before they get cold, he growled. And after breakfast, we're going over celestial navigation. I don't care how many satellites they've got orbiting this planet. You're going to learn to find your way by the stars like warriors did for 10,000 years. Kira smiled despite herself. Yes, Sergeant Major. The SEAL training compound at Coronado sprawled across acres of California coastline, a maze of obstacle courses, shooting ranges, and specialized training facilities where ordinary men were forged into America's deadliest weapons. At 0900, Kira stood in the K9 demonstration area, Titan sitting alertly at her side. Before her 20 fresh-faced SEAL candidates filed in and took their positions. Young, so damn young. Most barely 24. Muscles bulging, confidence radiating, certain they already knew everything worth knowing. Had she ever been that young? Listen up. Kira's voice cut through the morning air like a blade. 20 heads snapped to attention. I'm Lieutenant Kira Brennan, K9 handler and training coordinator. For the next 2 hours, you're going to learn why military working dogs are worth their weight in gold. Questions. A hand raised, tall kid, cocky grin, muscles that suggested more time in the gym than in actual combat. Yes, ma'am, with all due respect, the phrase that preceded exactly 0 respectful statements. Can a dog really make a difference in modern warfare? I mean, we've got drones, thermal sensors, satellite imaging, all kinds of technology. Why do we need animals? Name, Kira interrupted. Petty Officer Dawson, ma'am. Petty Officer Dawson. Kira gestured to the mock-up building behind her. A 3-story concrete structure, windows dark, designed to simulate urban warfare environments. Inside that building, I've hidden a training IED, standard configuration, 5 pounds of simulated C4, pressure plate trigger, anti-tamper device. She paused, letting the words sink in. Your fancy drones can't detect it. Your sensors won't find it. Your technology is worthless. She looked down at Titan, who sat with coiled readiness, waiting for the command he knew was coming. But he can find it in under 60 seconds. Care to bet your life that I'm wrong? Dawson's cocky grin faltered. I'll take that as a no. Kira turned to Titan. Zuck. The transformation was instant. Titan went from calm companion to focused weapon in a heartbeat. He moved toward the building with purpose, nose to the ground, every sense engaged. The candidates watched in silence. 47 seconds. Titan sat abruptly in front of a doorway, staring at a specific spot on the floor. His passive alert, sitting and staring. The signal that meant found it. Don't touch. You're welcome. Kira walked to the spot, knelt, and gently lifted a floor panel. Beneath it, exactly where Titan indicated, sat the training device. This, Kira said standing, is why dogs matter. She returned to her position, Titan falling in beside her, with obvious pride in his work. Technology fails. Batteries die. Systems get jammed. EMPs wipe out electronics. But a properly trained K9 will find explosives in conditions where nothing else can. They'll locate enemy combatants by scent alone. They'll track fleeing targets across miles of terrain. And they'll do it all while being loyal, dedicated, and utterly fearless. She looked at Dawson specifically. Let her gaze bore into him until he shifted uncomfortably. A dog won't hesitate. A dog won't freeze under fire. A dog won't second-guess itself. And a dog will die protecting you without a moment's hesitation. She paused. Can you say the same about your equipment? Dawson had nothing to say. For the next 90 minutes, Kira put Titan through his paces. Explosive detection, C4 Semtex PETN, each one found within seconds. Attack demonstrations with Titan hitting padded trainers with enough force to drop a grown man. Obedience under distraction, gunfire explosions, chaos all around. But Titan remained focused on Kira's commands, unwavering. The candidates watched with growing respect, but it was the final demonstration that left them speechless. Titan Blythe. Stay. Titan froze, mid-stride, one paw raised. Blythe. Kira walked away. 50 yards out of sight, behind the concrete building where Titan couldn't see her. 1 minute passed. 2. 5. The candidates shifted uncomfortably, checking watches, exchanging glances. 10 minutes. 15. Titan didn't move. Didn't even twitch. Absolute obedience. Absolute trust. At the 20-minute mark, Kira's voice rang out from behind the building. Titan higher. The dog broke his stay and sprinted to her like a furry missile, reaching her in seconds. She rewarded him with his favorite tug toy, and they played for 30 seconds. Payment for perfect performance. When Kira returned with Titan trotting proudly beside her, every candidate looked at her differently. Respect had replaced skepticism. Questions, she asked. No hands raised. Good. Dismissed. As the candidates filed out, one lingered. Petty Officer Dawson approached slightly sheepish. Ma'am, I apologize. That was impressive, doesn't cover it. Don't apologize to me. Kira gestured to Titan. Apologize to him. He's the one who just proved you wrong. Dawson looked down at Titan, then did something that surprised her. He knelt and extended his hand palm up. Submissive, respectful. Sorry, boy. You're one hell of an operator. Titan sniffed his hand once, then licked it. Forgiveness granted. Dawson stood, nodded to Kira, and jogged after his class. Kira watched him go, feeling something like satisfaction. Maybe hope. The next generation wasn't hopeless. They just needed to learn respect. You're getting soft, a voice said behind her. Kira turned. Commander Wallace Holt stood 10 feet away, hands in his pockets, that practiced smile on his face. Her commanding officer, 52 years old, fit but not hard. The look of a man who'd spent more time behind a desk than in the field. Something about him had always made Kira uneasy. A coldness behind the smile. A calculation in his eyes. Titan's hackles rose slightly. A soft growl rumbled in his chest, too quiet for Holt to hear. But Kira felt it through the leash. Dogs know. They always know. Sir, Kira acknowledged. Good demonstration. The candidates needed to see what a properly trained K9 can do. Holt walked closer, studied Titan with the detached interest of a man examining equipment. How's our boy performing? Peak efficiency, ready for deployment. Good, good. Holt seemed distracted, checking his watch. Listen, I need you in my office at 1300. Mission brief, time sensitive. Something in his tone made Kira's instincts sharpen. Too casual, too vague. Can you give me a preview, sir? Classified until briefing. His smile widened but didn't reach his eyes. But bring your go bag. You'll be wheels up by 1800. He turned to leave, then paused. And Kira, this one's important. Real important. His voice dropped. Don't be late. He walked away before she could respond. Kira looked down at Titan. The dog stared after Holt, head tilted slightly, that low growl still rumbling in his chest. Yeah, she murmured. I don't like him either. At 12:15, Kira's phone buzzed. She checked the screen. Stone. You're calling in the middle of the day, she said by way of greeting. Either someone's dead or something's wrong. Got a bad feeling. Stone's voice crackled through the line. Something's off. Can't explain it. Old warrior's instinct. I just got tasked for a mission. Brief at 1300. Wheels up at 1800. Silence, then. What kind of mission? Hostage rescue. 3 petroleum engineers grabbed by a cartel in Imperial Valley. 16-hour deadline. More silence. Longer this time. Timeline. Compressed. They want us moving fast. Intel quality. Commander Holt said high confidence, but I haven't seen the package yet. Rules of engagement. Weapons free. Anyone in the compound is hostile. The silence that followed was the longest yet. When Stone spoke again, his voice had changed. Hard. Urgent. The voice of a man who'd survived 3 decades of combat by trusting his gut. Come to my compound, now, before your brief. Stone, I can't just... This is not a request, Lieutenant. His tone brooked no argument. Don't tell anyone where you're going. And Kira, bring that mission folder if you can get your hands on it. The line went dead. Kira stared at her phone, heart rate climbing. Stone didn't spook easily. 30 years of combat, countless operations, nerves like titanium cables. For him to sound like that. She grabbed her keys. Titan, load up. 20 minutes later, Kira pulled into Stone's driveway. The old SEAL stood on the porch, arms crossed, face grim as winter. Inside, now. In the living room, Kira handed him what she'd managed to obtain. A partial mission brief, basic parameters, target location, timeline. Stone spread the documents across his coffee table. Satellite photos of a compound, industrial facility, high walls, remote location, intel summaries, timeline projections. His jaw clenched tighter with each page. This, he said, finally, voice like broken glass, is a setup. What? Stone stabbed a finger at the satellite imagery. I've seen this before. February 1991. Kuwait. Your father got orders for a routine weapons cache inspection. Small team, compressed timeline, thin intel, same pattern. He looked up, eyes hard as granite. 2 days later, he was dead. Kira's blood turned to ice. That could be coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. Not like this. Stone moved to his desk, pulled out a weathered journal, flipped through pages covered in precise handwriting. Decades of notes, decades of memories. Here, February 26th, 1991. Day before your father's mission. He read aloud. Garrett got orders today. Something's wrong. Intel too thin. Timeline too tight. Told him to be careful. His voice cracked. He laughed, said I worry too much. Stone closed the journal. Next entry is March the 2nd. Funeral arrangements. Kira sat down heavily. Titan immediately came to her, placed his head in her lap. She stroked his fur mechanically, mind racing. If this is a setup, she said slowly, who's setting me up and why? That I don't know, but I know what you need to do. Stone went to his desk, retrieved something. The Grenada compass. He pressed it into Kira's hands. Take this. When technology fails, old school knowledge saves lives. He gripped her shoulders, made her look at him. If things go wrong, and I think they will, you remember your training. Trust your instincts and get the hell out. He pulled out a small device about the size of a matchbox. Personal locator beacon, military grade, encrypted transmission. You hit this button, I receive your coordinates. No one else, just me. Stone I can't take. It's not military issue. Bought it civilian market. Untraceable. He pressed it into her hands. Hide it somewhere secure. If you need extraction and can't trust your command, you signal me. He pulled her into a fierce hug, the embrace of a man who'd already lost one Brennan and refuse to lose another. Your father was my brother in everything but blood. You're my family. Nothing happens to you on my watch. Kira hugged him back, feeling the strength in his old warrior's frame, the strength of a man who'd been carrying guilt for 27 years. I'll be careful. You be more than careful. You be smart, suspicious, and ready to run. He released her, stepped back. And you come home. Promise me. I promise. She meant it when she said it. She had no idea how hard that promise would be to keep. At 1300, Kira stood in Commander Holt's office. The briefing was everything Stone had warned about. Too smooth, too rehearsed, too many details that felt manufactured rather than gathered through actual intelligence work. The target, an abandoned industrial facility in Imperial Valley, 87 miles east. 3 American petroleum engineers kidnapped by cartel elements. Ransom demand of $10 million. 16-hour deadline. 6-man SEAL team plus Kira and Titan. Helicopter insertion. 2 kilometers from target. Tactical approach on foot. Breach at 2200. Neutralize hostiles. Extract hostages. Clean and quiet. Rules of engagement, weapons free. Anyone inside the compound was hostile. Current intelligence suggested 12 to 15 hostiles. Lightly armed, standard cartel security. It sounded simple, routine, the kind of mission SEALs executed in their sleep. It felt like a death sentence. At 1800, the MH-60M Black Hawk lifted off from Coronado. 6 SEALs, 1 K9 handler, 1 Belgian Malinois, and secrets that would cost people their lives before the night was done. Kira sat in the helicopter's belly, hand resting on Titan's head. The dog was calm, professional, strapped into his tactical harness, ready for whatever came next. Through the open door, she watched California disappear. The sun was setting, painting the desert in shades of blood and gold. Her hand found the photograph in her chest pocket. Her father, forever young, forever smiling. Her other hand found Stone's compass hidden in an inside pocket. Brass and history and survival. And on her belt, hidden where no one would find it, the emergency beacon. Old school knowledge, father's legacy, loyal companion, backup plan. Whatever waited in that compound, she had those 4 things. And before this night was over, she would need all of them to survive. The helicopter banked east, heading into darkness. Below, the Imperial Valley stretched out like a vast ocean of nothing. No lights, no civilization. Just desert and secrets and the approaching unknown. Lieutenant Declan Shaw's voice crackled through her headset. 30 minutes to insertion. Check weapons. Check gear. We go in silent. We go in fast. Kira chambered around in her HK-416. The metallic snap seemed too loud even over the helicopter's roar. This was it. No turning back now. Whatever waited in that compound, cartel kidnappers or something far worse, she would face it with steel in her spine and fire in her blood. She was Kira Brennan, daughter of Commander Garrett Brennan, warrior, SEAL, and she would never quit. The helicopter descended into the dark desert below, carrying them toward their fate, and toward a question that would echo in her ears as blood ran down her face and a gun pressed against her forehead. Who's going to save you now? The answer was already running toward her. 85 pounds of muscle and loyalty and teeth charging through the darkness. She just didn't know it yet. The Black Hawk touched down 2 kilometers from the target compound at 21:45. The desert night wrapped around them like a cold fist. Temperature already dropping toward 40 degrees. The kind of cold that seeps through tactical gear and settles deep in the bones. Kira was third out after Lieutenant Shaw and his point man. Her boots hit packed earth with practiced silence. Titan leaped down beside her, instantly alert nose, testing the wind for threats that human senses could never detect. The helicopter's rotors whipped sand into swirling clouds that stung exposed skin and turned the world into a granular haze. Within 30 seconds, the Black Hawk lifted off banking, hard west, disappearing into the darkness. The sound faded, quickly swallowed by the vast emptiness of the Imperial Valley. Silence rushed in to fill the void. Profound, heavy, oppressive. 6 SEALs plus Kira formed up in tactical column. Shaw took point night vision down, weapon up. The others fell into practice intervals. 5 meters between each operator. Enough space to avoid clustered casualties, but close enough for mutual support. Kira took her position in the middle of the formation, with Titan at her side. Standard doctrine for K9 handlers. Protected by shooters, front and rear. The logic was sound. Dogs were force multipliers. Lose the dog, lose capabilities. But something in Kira's gut screamed the doctrine wouldn't matter tonight. Shaw's hand signal cut through the darkness. Move out! The team advanced in silence. No radio chatter, hand signals only. Professional, disciplined, exactly as trained. The only sounds were boots on hardpack, the whisper of tactical gear, and the soft panting of Titan keeping pace beside his handler. 1 kilometer passed, then 2. The compound appeared in the distance through Kira's night vision. A dark cluster of buildings surrounded by high concrete walls. No lights visible, no movement. It looked abandoned, dead, exactly as advertised. But Kira's instincts screamed otherwise, and Titan's body language confirmed it. The dog's hackles were raised. His movements had become tighter, more controlled. He smelled something on the wind that the humans couldn't detect. Something wrong, something dangerous. Shaw raised a fist. The team took a knee. Kira pressed close to a rocky outcropping Titan beside her. She could feel the dog's tension through his tactical vest. Muscles coiled, ready to explode into action. Shaw spoke into his radio voice, barely a whisper. Ghost Rider, this is Reaper 6. In position for final approach. Request confirmation of hostile count. Static. Then a response. Reaper 6, Ghost Rider. Count remains 12 to 15. Proceed with caution. Roger. Beginning approach. The team moved forward again. Slower now. More cautious. They were within 500 meters of the compound walls. Close enough to be seen if anyone was watching with night vision. Close enough to be engaged if anyone had heavy weapons. Close enough to die before they knew what hit them. Kira's hand found Titan's collar. She gave the silent signal. Scout ahead. Titan moved forward 20 meters like a gray ghost in the darkness. He worked the wind with his nose, quartering back and forth, searching for scents that didn't belong. He stopped abruptly, head low, ears back, body rigid, the alert posture that meant explosives. Kira moved to him, quickly took a knee, studied the ground. At first she saw nothing, just packed earth and scattered rocks. But then she noticed the pattern, slight depressions in the soil, too regular, too deliberate. She pulled out a small flashlight, cupped her hand to minimize signature, risked a quick flash of white light. There, barely visible against the desert floor, a wire, military-grade daycord. Almost invisible, she traced the wire with her eyes, followed it to a pressure plate buried under sand, followed it further to a charge concealed in a rock pile. Not one IED, a whole chain of them. Daisy-chained together, creating a kill zone that would turn their approach route into a meat grinder. Kira keyed her radio voice low and controlled despite her racing heart. Reaper 6, this is Handler. IEDs confirmed. Main approach is wired. Patterns suggest military-grade placement. Shaw's voice came back sharp. Clarify military grade. Spacing is consistent with U.S. Army doctrine. 3 to 5 meter intervals. Professional placement with anti-tamper devices. Kira paused, letting the implications sink in. This isn't cartel work. This is someone with training. Someone who learned from us. Silence on the radio. Too long. Then Shaw's response. Roger, we breach from alternate entry. Southwest corner. Move. The team shifted, circling wide around the IED field. But Kira's mind raced as she moved. IEDs this professional? Placement this precise? Cartel didn't have this capability, couldn't maintain this discipline. Someone else was in that compound, someone who knew exactly what they were doing. They reached the southwest wall, concrete, 12 feet high, topped with rusted razor wire. No guards visible, no cameras. The entrance was a service door, metal, old enough to show rust at the hinges. Too easy. Shaw stacked the team. 3 SEALs on each side of the door, weapons ready. He looked at Kira, gestured forward. Your turn. Kira approached with Titan. The dog sniffed the door frame carefully, moved to the hinges, the threshold, then sat and stared at a spot 6 inches to the left of the door handle. Passive alert. Explosives detected. Kira examined the area with her flashlight. There, concealed in a crack in the concrete, a pressure plate trigger. Open the door, complete the circuit, detonate the charge hidden inside the wall cavity. Anyone breaching would be vaporized. Doors wired, Kira whispered into her radio. Pressure plate trigger, C4 charge in the wall cavity. We breach here, we die. Shaw's jaw clenched, visible even in the green glow of night vision. They tried a second entry point. North side. Titan alerted again. Third entry. Same result. Every door, every window, every possible breach point, wired with explosives. Professional, thorough, military precise. This was not a cartel safe house. This was a fortress, a killing ground designed by someone who understood exactly how SEAL teams operated. Finally, on the 4th attempt, they found an entry that Titan cleared. A service entrance half buried in sand, partially collapsed, almost invisible. The lock was broken, the door slightly ajar. Too convenient, but they were running out of time and options. Shaw made the decision. We go slow and careful. Odin leads. Clear every room before we advance. By the numbers. The team filed through the entrance one at a time. Kira and Titan went third behind Shaw and his point man. The interior was dark, musty, smelling of oil and rust and something else. Something chemical that made Kira's nose wrinkle. Titan moved forward, clearing the first hallway. Empty. They advanced. Reached a junction. Titan checked both directions. Indicated left. Clear that way. Something wrong to the right. They went left. The compound interior was a maze. Hallways branching into more hallways. Rooms opening into storage areas. Industrial equipment covered in dust and cobwebs. It looked abandoned, dead for years. But the IEDs outside were fresh. Someone was maintaining this place. Someone was waiting. They cleared 3 rooms. 4, 5, all empty. Kira's tension ratcheted higher with each vacant space. Where were the hostiles? Where were the hostages? Where was anyone? Then Titan alerted again. Different posture this time. Head up, ears forward, focused on a closed door at the end of a hallway. Not explosives, people. Shaw signaled the team. Stack on the door, prepare to breach. He looked at Kira, raised 3 fingers. 3, 2, 1. They hit the door with a battering ram. Metal shrieked. The door crashed open. SEALs flooded through weapons, up-scanning for targets. The room beyond was lit. Bare bulbs hanging from the ceiling. Harsh white light after hours of green night vision. Kira blinked, eyes adjusting. 3 men knelt in the center of the room, hands zip-tied behind their backs, duct tape over their mouths. The hostages. But something was wrong. The men weren't sweating despite obvious stress. No visible injuries despite 3 days of supposed captivity. Their clothes were too clean, their body language too controlled. These weren't terrified victims. These were men playing a role. The blonde one, maybe 40 years old, looked directly at Kira. His eyes weren't pleading. They were warning. Get out, run, trap. Hostages secured, Shaw reported into his radio. Beginning extraction, that's when the doors slam shut. Heavy steel doors on pneumatic systems, perfectly synchronized, crashing closed on all four walls of the room with the finality of a tomb ceiling. Floodlights ignited, industrial halogens, blinding, searing into retinas already adapted to darkness. Kira threw up an arm, squinting against the painful glare. And then they came, not from the doors, from hidden panels in the walls, from concealed hatches in the floor, from the ceiling itself. 30 men, maybe more. Professional gear, plate carriers, precision combat uniforms, no insignia, weapons raised, FN scars, HK-416s, expensive military-grade hardware, not cartel, private military contractors. Contact, Shaw screamed into his radio. Ambush, we are compromised. Ghost Rider abort insertion. Static, hissing, crackling, nothing. Communications jammed. The gunfight erupted like a volcano. Muzzle flashes strobed the room in snapshots of violence. The sound was deafening. Overlapping automatic fire. Ricochets screaming off concrete. Brass casings raining like metal hail. The SEALs returned fire with disciplined aggression, controlled bursts, aimed shots. Professional even in chaos. But they were outnumbered 5-1, caught in a kill zone, surrounded by shooters with superior positioning. Kira dove behind industrial machinery as rounds tore through the air where her head had been. She landed hard, shoulder slamming concrete. HK-16 clutched tight. Beside her, Titan pressed close, waiting for commands. Blythe, Kira ordered. Stay! Aft! Down! Titan flattened, making himself small. Good boy. Smart boy. A SEAL to her left took 3 rounds to the chest. Body armor caught 2. The third found the gap under his arm. He went down screaming, clutching the wound, blood pumping between his fingers. Another SEAL returned fire, dropped 1 contractor, then 2. But for every enemy that fell, 2 more appeared. Endless, overwhelming. Shaw fought like a demon. Magazine changes smooth as water, rounds on target with mechanical precision. But even he couldn't fight mathematics. They were being overrun. A flashbang detonated near the center of the room. Blinding light, deafening concussion. Kira's world turned white, then gray, then spinning. Her ears rang with a high-pitched whine that drowned out everything else. Through the disorientation, she saw SEALs going down, not dead, taken alive. Contractors swarming them with overwhelming numbers, zip ties appearing, weapons confiscated, professional, coordinated. They wanted prisoners. Why a voice cut through the chaos? Amplified, speaking through a PA system. Lieutenant Kira Brennan, we know you're here. Make this easy. Surrender and your men live. Fight and they die. Your choice. 10 seconds. American accent, Southern drawl, calm, like discussing the weather. Kira's blood turned to ice. They knew her name. This wasn't about the hostages. This was about her. 5 seconds, Lieutenant. Shaw looked at her across the room, blood running down his face from a scalp wound. 3 contractors holding him down. He shook his head frantically. Don't do it. Don't surrender. But if she didn't, they'd execute the team. She could see it in the contractors' positioning. Weapons to heads, fingers on triggers. Ready to kill on command. Time's up. Kira stood, raised her hands. I surrender. Don't shoot. The gunfire stopped. Silence crashed down like a physical weight, broken only by ringing ears and labored breathing. Contractors moved in on her position, 6 of them. Professional, cautious, treating her like a legitimate threat despite her raised hands. They zip-tied her wrists behind her back, confiscated her weapons, HK-416, Glock 19, her knife, even the backup piece in her ankle holster. Thorough, professional. 1 contractor grabbed Titan's collar. The dog snarled, snapped at his hand, drew blood. The contractor jerked back, cursing. Don't, Kira shouted. He'll tear your throat out. Control your dog or we shoot it. Kira's heart hammered. Titan. F. Blythe. Titan hesitated, every instinct screaming to protect his handler, but training overrode instinct. He dropped to his belly, still snarling. Good boy, Kira whispered. Easy, easy. They muzzled him, put him in a shock collar, dragged him away toward a separate part of the compound. Kira wanted to scream, wanted to fight, wanted to kill every man touching her dog, but she couldn't, not yet. They dragged Kira through hallways, past empty spaces, deeper into the compound. The 3 fake hostages had disappeared. The SEALs were being taken elsewhere. She was being isolated, prepared. They reached a large open space, warehouse area, oil stains on the concrete, rusted industrial equipment pushed against walls, harsh overhead lighting casting sharp shadows. In the center of the space sat a metal chair, bolted to the floor. They shoved Kira into it, zip-tied her ankles to the chair legs, added another tie binding her chest to the chair back, completely immobilized. And then he walked into the light. Mid-40s, 6 feet tall, lean and hard like braided steel, short dark hair going gray at the temples, face weathered by sun and wind and violence. A scar ran from his left eyebrow to his jawline. Old, white, the kind of scar that came from edged weapons in close combat. He wore civilian clothes, jeans, tactical boots, black t-shirt, no body armor, no visible weapons. But the way he moved suggested he didn't need them. This was a man who could kill with empty hands, and had, many times. He stopped 3 feet from Kira, studied her with eyes that were pale blue and completely empty of warmth. Lieutenant Kira Brennan. His southern accent was soft, almost gentle, a gentleman's voice wrapped around a killer's soul. You're the spitting image of your father. Same gray eyes, same stubborn jaw. He smiled. No humor reached his eyes. Same expression he wore right before I killed him. The world tilted. Who the hell are you? The man smiled again. Dominic Ashford. But your daddy knew me as Reaper, Delta Force back when that meant something. Now I'm private sector. More money, fewer rules. He circled the chair slowly, predator examining prey. February 28th, 1991. Ashford's voice was conversational, casual, like discussing old times with a friend. Kuwait Desert, your father was investigating a weapons cache. Routine patrol or so he thought. But Garrett Brennan was too smart, too observant. He noticed things he shouldn't have noticed, asked questions he shouldn't have asked. Kira's heart hammered against her cracked ribs. You killed my father. I did. No hesitation, no remorse. Simple statement of fact. 2 rounds, center mass. Watched him go down. Watched him bleed out in the sand. Ashford leaned closer, close enough that Kira could smell his cologne. Expensive, refined, the scent of a man who'd gotten rich on murder. He called your name at the end. Kira. Over and over. Tell Kira I love her. Then he died. Rage exploded through Kira's chest like thermite. She strained against the zip ties, ignoring the plastic cutting into her wrists, drawing blood. Ignoring the pain in her cracked ribs. Ignoring everything except the overwhelming need to wrap her hands around this man's throat. I'll kill you, she snarled. I swear to God, I'll kill you. Ashford laughed, low, amused. Spirit, I like that. Your father had spirit, too. His smile widened. Didn't save him. He pulled out a tablet computer, tapped the screen, showed her photographs, desert landscape, military vehicles, personnel in U.S. uniforms moving crates, large wooden crates with military stenciling. Operation Desert Shield, Ashford explained. Summer and fall of 1990, before the shooting started, the U.S. shipped massive amounts of weapons and equipment to Saudi Arabia, Tanks, artillery, small arms, ammunition, billions of dollars of hardware. He swiped to the next photo. Officers in discussion, hands shaking, money changing hands. But some of that hardware never made it to the front lines. Some of it got diverted, sold on the black market. Iraqi officers were desperate for weapons. They'd pay triple, quadruple market value. Ashford's eyes gleamed. Made certain people very rich. Another photo. Garrett Brennan in the background, clearly unaware he was being photographed, examining documents, taking pictures with a small camera. Your father discovered the operation, found the paper trail, got evidence. Ashford's expression hardened. He was going to blow the whistle, expose generals, colonels, a whole network of corruption reaching into the highest levels of command. He leaned close again. So they hired me, paid me very well, told me to make it look like a combat casualty. Friendly fire was convenient. Happens in war. Tragic accident. No investigation required. His voice dropped to a whisper. I executed your father like a dog. 2 rounds, center mass, and everyone who knew the truth either died transferred or kept their mouths shut. Tears burned Kira's eyes, not from sadness, from pure concentrated hate. Ironside suspected. Ashford continued using Stone's old call sign. But he's a smart man. He knew pushing too hard would get him killed too. So he stayed quiet, lived with the guilt, watched you grow up from a distance knowing he couldn't save your daddy, but maybe, just maybe he could save you. He straightened, clasped his hands behind his back. Your buddy Stone never stopped digging. Old bastard is persistent. For 27 years, he's been investigating your father's death, following threads, asking questions, getting too close to truth. Ashford gestured around the warehouse. This operation here, this isn't about cartel hostages. There are no hostages. Those 3 men you saw are international arms buyers. Today's transaction was $75 million in stolen U.S. military hardware. Javelin missiles, Stinger anti-aircraft systems, encrypted communications equipment. He pulled out his phone, showed her more images, the 3 fake hostages in a luxury hotel suite, laughing, drinking champagne, examining weapon specifications. Those men were never kidnapped, Ashford said. They're buyers, Eastern European black market. They paid to come here. The whole hostage scenario was theater, designed to get you here, to make the mission look legitimate. The full scope of the betrayal crashed down on Kira like a collapsing building. Everything was a lie. The mission, the intelligence, the threat, all fabricated to lure her into a trap. Commander Wallace Holt, Ashford continued, your commanding officer, he's been on my payroll for 6 years, provides intelligence on SEAL operations, personnel files, mission parameters, deployment schedules. He smiled. Very useful man. He showed her wire transfer records, millions of dollars, offshore accounts, encrypted communications between Holt and Ashford spanning years. This mission was designed from the start, Ashford said, specifically for you. Minimal team, compressed timeline, thin intelligence, same pattern that killed your father. He leaned in. Holt set it up, I executed it, and now you're here, about to die, just like Daddy. Kira's mind raced even as her heart shattered. Why go through all this trouble for me? Because Stone is too close. He's got evidence, contacts in naval intelligence. He's building a case that could expose everything. Ashford's voice hardened. So we sent him a message. Kill his protege. Kill the daughter of the man he failed to save. Break him. Make him understand that if he keeps pushing, everyone he loves dies. He gestured to 2 contractors standing nearby. They approached, cracking knuckles, rolling shoulders. After you're dead, maybe he'll finally quit. But first, Ashford smiled that cold, empty smile. We're going to have some fun. He stepped back. Soften her up. Make her understand the situation. Don't kill her yet. His eyes found Kira's, held them. I want her conscious for what comes next. The first punch caught Kira in the mouth. Her head snapped back. Lips split. Blood exploded across her tongue. Copper and salt. The second punch hit her cheekbone. Stars burst across her vision. They beat her systematically. Face, body, ribs. Targeting pain centers. Professional violence designed for maximum suffering, minimum permanent damage. They wanted her alive, conscious, aware. Kira's SEAL training kicked in. SEER school, survive, evade, resist, escape. Don't scream. Don't give them satisfaction. Breathe through the pain. Focus on something else. She focused on her father's face, on Stone's lessons, on Titan's loyalty, on survival. A fist drove into her solar plexus. Air exploded from her lungs. She gasped, choking, unable to breathe. Panic clawed at her mind. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Another punch. Ribs cracked. She heard them, felt them. Sharp pain like knives in her chest. I'm a Brennan, she gasped through blood and broken lips. I'm a SEAL. I don't quit. The contractor paused, looked at Ashford. Ashford nodded. Continue. More blows, more pain. Her left eye swelled shut. Blood ran freely from her mouth, her nose cuts on her face. But she didn't scream, didn't beg, didn't give them one damn thing. In another part of the compound, Titan heard everything. The Belgian Malinois paced in his cage. 8 by 8 feet of chain link, barely enough room to turn around. A shock collar around his neck. A muzzle strapped to his face. But he heard his handler, heard the impacts, the gasps of pain, the sounds of violence. And something ancient woke inside him. Titan threw himself against the cage door. Chain link rattled but held. He bit at the metal, ignoring the muzzle digging into his face. Threw himself again. Again. A contractor approached with a shock collar remote. Press the button. Electricity surged through Titan's body. His muscles seized. He collapsed. But only for a moment. He got back up. Threw himself at the cage again. Another shock. Longer this time. More painful. Titan fell. Lay still. The contractor laughed. Then Titan rose again. 85 pounds of muscle and loyalty, an absolute refusal to surrender. Pain was just information. Electricity was just sensation. Nothing mattered except getting to his handler. He attacked the cage with renewed fury. And somewhere in the chaos, somewhere in the repeated shocks and repeated attempts, something broke. Not Titan's spirit. The cage latch. Old, rusted. Not designed to withstand the sustained assault of a Belgian Malinois driven by pure devotion. The latch gave way. The cage door swung open. Titan was free. He shook off, the muzzle broken now from repeated impacts against metal, shook off the pain of the shock still tingling through his muscles. And then he moved, following his nose, following his ears, following the sounds of his handler in distress. 85 pounds of fury charging through the darkness. Back in the warehouse, the contractor stepped away from Kira. She hung in the chair, zip ties cutting into her wrists, blood dripping from her face, her left eye swollen completely shut. Every breath sending agony through her fractured ribs. But she was still conscious, still defiant. Ashford approached, pulled the Sig Sauer P22126 from behind his back. Chambered around, the metallic snap echoed through the warehouse like a death knell. Any last words? Kira raised her head, met his eyes, spat blood at his feet. My father was 10 times the warrior you'll ever be. He died with honor. You'll die knowing you were nothing but a mercenary thug, a traitor who sold his soul for money. Ashford's expression didn't change, Honor doesn't pay the bills, Lieutenant, and your father's honor got him 2 bullets in the back. He raised the pistol, pointed it at Kira's forehead. Who's going to save you now? Ashford asked softly. Your team is captured. Your command betrayed you. Your dog is caged. Your mentor is 90 miles away. He smiled that empty smile. Who's going to save you? Kira's vision narrowed to the barrel of that pistol. Black circle, tunnel to oblivion, death staring her in the face. But she didn't flinch, didn't beg, didn't break. I'm a Brennan, she whispered. I'm a SEAL. I don't need saving. Her voice strengthened despite the pain. I am the weapon. Ashford smiled. Just like your daddy, defiant to the end. His finger tightened on the trigger, and somewhere in the compound a dog howled. Raw, desperate, furious, the sound of loyalty refusing to be silenced. Ashford paused, frowned. I thought I said to control that animal. A contractor keyed his radio. Bravo team status on the K9. Static, then a scream, then nothing. Ashford's frown deepened. What the hell? More screams, distant, getting closer. The sound of violence, the wet crunch of impact, bodies falling, then a sound that made Ashford's face pale for the first time. Snarling, deep and savage. The sound of a predator hunting. The lights flickered. Ashford spun, barking orders. Find that dog, kill it now. The lights flickered again, then went out. Total darkness. Complete. Absolute. And in that darkness, Kira heard it. The soft pad of paws on concrete. Moving fast. Getting closer. Then a voice. Ashford's voice. Trying to maintain control but failing. Night vision. Get your damn night vision on. Too late. A scream split the darkness, cut short by snarling. The sound of a body hitting concrete. Another scream. Another impact. Muzzle flashes. Wild. Panicked. Shots fired blindly into the dark. And through it all, that sound. That snarling. That howl. Titan had arrived, and hell had come with him. Darkness swallowed everything. The kind of black that erases the world. No shadows, no shapes, no up or down. Just absolute nothing pressing against open eyes. Kira's ears strained against the chaos erupting around her. Gunfire cracked in random bursts. Muzzle flashes strobed the warehouse in snapshots of pure terror. Men screaming, bodies falling, the wet sounds of violence, and cutting through it all that snarling. Constant, relentless. Moving through the darkness like death itself. Titan, her dog, her partner, her 85 pounds of muscle and teeth and absolute loyalty. He had come for her. Something's got me. Something's... The voice cut off in a gurgle. A body hit concrete. Heavy. Final. Another muzzle flash. In its brief illumination, Kira saw Titan, a gray blur launching at a contractor's throat, jaws closing. The man screamed, dying before it fully formed. Then darkness again. Night vision! Get your goddamn night vision! Ashford's voice, cracking with something Kira had never expected to hear from him. Fear. She worked at her restraints, twisting her wrists against the zip ties. Blood made them slick. Pain shot up her arms. But the plastic was industrial grade, designed to hold. Another flash. Another snapshot of carnage. Titan taking down a second contractor. Third, moving through the warehouse like a furry hurricane of destruction. Kira's right hand slipped, fractionally, the blood lubricating her skin against the plastic. She pulled harder, felt skin tear, ignored it. There, shoot it, shoot the damn dog. Automatic fire ripped through the darkness, rounds sparking off concrete, ricochets screaming, a yelp, sharp, pained. Kira's heart stopped. Titan, more gunfire, more chaos. But the snarling continued, weaker now, but still there, still fighting, still coming for her. Kira wrenched her right hand with everything she had. The zip tie bit deep. Blood flowed freely. Pain exploded up her arm. The plastic snapped. Her right hand was free. She bent forward, ignoring the broken ribs, screaming in protest. Found the zip tie on her left ankle, fingers slick with blood, fumbling in absolute darkness. There, the locking mechanism. She dug her thumbnail into it, pushed, twisted. The tie loosened. Another gunshot. Close. Too close. A round whined past her ear. Kira froze, held her breath. Find her, the woman. She's still in the chair. Footsteps approaching. Multiple. Converging on her position. She attacked the ankle tie with renewed desperation, yanking, pulling, the plastic cutting into her fingers. It snapped. Left ankle free. She worked on the right. Faster now. Fingers finding the mechanism. Pressing. Twisting. The footsteps were closer. Voices calling out in the darkness. Flashlight beams cutting through the black. The tie released. Kira exploded out of the chair. Dropped low. Rolled behind industrial machinery just as a flashlight beam swept across where she'd been sitting. She's loose. The woman is loose. More beams. More voices. The darkness her only ally now. And somewhere in that darkness, Titan was still fighting, still drawing attention, still protecting her the only way he knew how. A flashlight beam found him. Kira saw her dog in that brief illumination, blood on his right foreleg, a wound she couldn't assess, but he was still standing, still snarling, still advancing on the contractor holding the light. The contractor raised his weapon. Titan launched, 85 pounds of Belgian Malinois hitting a grown man at full velocity. The contractor went down. The flashlight went flying. The gun discharged harmlessly into the ceiling. Then darkness reclaimed them. Kira moved through the black on instinct and memory. Her hands found the concrete floor, found the shape of fallen equipment, found a body, still warm, not moving. She searched it by touch, found a sidearm. Glock 19, standard issue, familiar weight in her blood-slicked hands. She checked the magazine by feel, full. Now she was armed. The chaos continued around her. Ashford's voice cutting through trying to restore order. Contractors shouting conflicting reports. Flashlight beams sweeping in random patterns. And through it all, Titan, still moving, still fighting, his snarls and the screams of men marking his progress through the darkness. Kira oriented herself. The warehouse had 4 main sections. She was in the northwest corner. The exit was southeast. Ashford's voice was coming from the center. She began to move. Low, slow, silent, using the sounds of chaos as cover, counting footsteps in her head, building a mental map of the space. A flashlight beam swept toward her. She pressed flat against a rusted machine, held her breath. The beam passed inches from her face. The contractor moved on, didn't see her. She continued forward. 20 feet, 30. She could feel the wall now, could sense the doorway she'd been dragged through hours ago. A shape moved in front of her. Human, male, breathing hard. Kira didn't hesitate. She rose from the darkness like a specter, one hand covering his mouth, the other pressing the Glock's muzzle against his temple. "Where's my dog?" she whispered. The contractor tried to scream. Her hand muffled it. She pressed the gun harder. "My dog! Where?" He pointed. East side, through a doorway, down a hall. "How many guards?" He held up 2 fingers. "You're going to live," Kira whispered. "But if you make a sound in the next 60 seconds, I'll find you, and I'll kill you slowly." She released him, reversed the Glock, brought the butt down on the back of his skull. He dropped. Kira moved toward the east doorway. Behind her, the chaos continued. But something had changed. The gunfire was less frequent. The screams had stopped. Either Titan had killed everyone in his path or she pushed the thought away, found the doorway, slipped through. A hallway stretched before her, lit by emergency lights that cast everything in bloody red. She advanced with her weapon up, checking corners, clearing spaces. Every step agony through her broken ribs. Every breath a knife in her chest. But she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Not until she found Titan. The hallway ended at another door. She pressed her ear against it. Heard voices. Two men. Arguing about what to do. Should just shoot it and be done? Ashford wants it alive. Says it's valuable. Thing already killed 3 of our guys. Kira kicked the door open. The 2 contractors spun, weapons rising. She shot the first one center mass. 2 rounds. He went down. The second one got his gun up. Finger on the trigger. She shot him in the head. He dropped. The room was small, storage space, and in the corner in a cage that had been torn partially open from the inside was Titan. He was lying down, breathing hard, blood matting the fur on his right foreleg. But when he saw Kira, his tail wagged. Good boy, her voice cracked. Such a good boy. She went to him, dropped to her knees despite the pain. Ran her hands over his body, assessing the damage. The wound on his foreleg was a graze, deep enough to bleed heavily, but not life-threatening. Nothing vital hit. He would live. She wrapped the wound with a strip torn from her shirt. Quick field dressing. Not pretty, but functional. Can you walk? Titan stood, tested his weight on the injured leg. Limped, but held. Can you fight? His lip curled. A growl rumbled in his chest. That was answer enough. Kira retrieved the fallen contractor's weapons, an FN scar for herself, extra magazines, a knife. She checked the scar's action. Smooth, clean, ready. Now she was dangerous. Titan, Bidge. The dog fell into position at her left side, close enough to touch, close enough to protect. Together they moved back into the hallway. The emergency lights still cast their red glow, but something had changed. The chaos from the warehouse had gone quiet. No more screams, no more gunfire. Either Ashford had regained control, or everyone was dead. Kira didn't know which possibility was worse. She advanced toward the warehouse, Titan limping beside her. Every shadow a potential threat, every sound a potential enemy. They reached the doorway. Kira pressed against the wall, risked a quick look. The warehouse was lit now. Someone had found auxiliary power. Harsh white light revealed the carnage. Bodies everywhere. Contractors, 8, maybe 10. Some shot, most showing the distinctive wounds of a military working dog. Throat injuries, arm injuries, the kind of damage that only 85 pounds of trained Belgian Malinois could inflict. Titan had done this, had killed or disabled nearly a third of Ashford's force, alone, in the dark, while wounded. Kira's hand found his head, scratched behind his ears. Good boy, she whispered, very good boy. But the job wasn't done. Ashford was still out there, and so were the surviving contractors, and somewhere the captured SEAL team was being held. Kira keyed the throat mic she'd taken from one of the fallen contractors. Different frequency than her own. Enemy comms. Got a clear exit route. The woman and dog are loose. Fall back to the vehicles. Ashford says complete the transaction first. Transaction. The arms deal. $75 million in stolen military hardware. That was still happening, despite the chaos, despite the casualties. Ashford was going to finish what he'd started. Kira made a decision. She switched frequencies, found the one Stone had given her, the encrypted channel only he monitored. Stone, this is Brennan. Do you copy? Static. Her heart sank. Then Kira's status. His voice, rough and beautiful and alive. Compromised ambush. Commander Holt is a traitor. Repeat, Holt is hostile. Private military contractors. At least 20 remaining. Titan and I are loose. SEAL team captured, but alive. Coordinates. She rattled off the location from memory. We're inbound. ETA 40 minutes. Negative. Too long. Ashford is completing an arms transaction. 75 million in javelins and stingers. He's going to disappear before you get here. Silence. Then, what do you need? Nothing. I'm going to stop him. Kira, wait for backup. You're wounded, outgunned. He killed my father. The words hung in the air, heavy with 27 years of grief and rage. He killed my father, Stone. Told me to my face. Laughed about it. This ends tonight. Another silence. Longer this time. Understood. Stone's voice was rough. But you come home. That's an order. Roger that. She switched off the radio, looked at Titan. The dog looked back at her with absolute trust in his eyes. One more fight, boy. Then we go home. Titan's tail wagged once. They moved. The compound was a maze, but Kira had been dragged through it once. She remembered the route, reversed it in her mind, followed it backward toward where Ashford had taken her. Voices ahead. Footsteps. She pressed against a wall. Titan went still beside her. Two contractors rounded the corner. Weapons up. Searching. Kira shot the first one before he registered her presence. The second one fired wildly as he fell. Missed. Titan launched. Hit the second contractor at chest height. Jaws finding his gun arm. Teeth crushing through tactical gear. The man screamed. Titan loss. The dog released. Stepped back. The contractor lay on the ground, clutching his mangled arm. No threat anymore. Kira stepped over him, kept moving. The compound's layout was becoming clear. She was approaching the loading area. The place where Ashford would complete his transaction, where $75 million would change hands and enough weapons to start a small war, would disappear into the black market. She heard voices growing louder, saw light spilling from a doorway ahead, pressed against the wall, risked a look. A large loading bay, 3 SUVs, men moving crates. The 3 fake hostages, now clearly revealed as international arms buyers, examining merchandise with satisfied expressions. And in the center of it all, Ashford. He stood with his back to her, phone pressed to his ear, giving orders, directing the operation. Kira counted the remaining contractors. 12, maybe 15. All armed, all professional. Too many to fight head-on. But she didn't need to fight them all. She just needed to get to Ashford. Kira assessed the space. Industrial, high ceilings, lots of cover, a catwalk running along one wall providing an elevated position. She looked at Titan, made a decision. Titan Blythe. The dog sat, waited. Kira moved alone. She circled the loading bay using stacked crates as cover, reached the ladder leading to the catwalk, climbed silently despite the agony in her ribs. The elevated position gave her a clear view. Ashford was 30 feet away. Clear shot, but so were a dozen contractors. The moment she fired, they would return fire. She might kill Ashford, but she wouldn't survive, unless she created a distraction. Kira keyed the contractor frequency again. Listened. Perimeter is secure. No sign of the woman or the dog. Transaction proceeding on schedule. She smiled. They thought she was running, trying to escape. They had no idea she was already inside their perimeter. She aimed the SCAR at the far wall, at a cluster of industrial equipment, gas lines, flammable materials. Squeezed the trigger. The explosion was larger than she'd expected. Flame erupted across the far side of the loading bay. Men screamed. Dove for cover. Confusion reigned. In the chaos, Kira moved, dropped from the catwalk, hit the ground hard, ribs screaming. Didn't matter. Kept moving. Through the smoke, through the confusion, straight toward Ashford. He was running for one of the SUVs, escaping, like he'd escaped from her father's death, like he'd escaped from justice for 27 years. Not tonight. Tighten higher. The dog appeared from nowhere, 85 pounds of limping fury. He crossed the loading bay in seconds, ignoring the chaos, ignoring his wound, focused only on one thing, the target his handler had indicated. Ashford saw him coming, raised his weapon. Titan launched. The impact was brutal. Man and dog went down in a tangle of limbs. The gun flew from Ashford's hand. Titan's jaws found his arm, crushed down. Ashford screamed. Kira reached them, kicked away his fallen weapon, pressed the scar's muzzle against his forehead. Titan loss. The dog released, stepped back, but stayed close, still snarling, still ready. Ashford lay on his back, clutching his mangled arm, blood soaking his expensive shirt. His pale blue eyes found Kira's steel gray ones. You're gonna kill me. Not a question. I should. And she wanted to. God, she wanted to. 27 years of grief. 27 years of questions. 27 years of a lie that had shaped her entire existence. She could end it. One squeeze of the trigger. Justice, revenge, closure. Her finger tightened. Your father begged you no. Ashford's voice was calm despite the pain. At the end, begged me to spare him. Said he had a daughter. Said he wanted to see her grow up. Kira's jaw clenched. I laughed. Told him his daughter would never know what happened to him. That she'd grow up believing a lie. That his death would mean nothing. The trigger was so light. So easy. But I was wrong, wasn't I? Ashford continued. His death meant something. It made you into this. He gestured at her with his good hand, blood-covered, beaten, broken ribs and swollen eye, and wounds that would take weeks to heal. Look at you, his legacy, his weapon, come to finish what he started. Kira's finger relaxed, fractionally. You want me to kill you. That's what this is. You think death is better than what's coming. Ashford's expression flickered. First sign of genuine emotion she'd seen from him. Prison, trial, your whole operation exposed. Everyone you've worked with for the last 30 years, every corrupt officer, every illegal deal, all of it coming out. She smiled, cold, hard. My father didn't die for revenge. He died for justice, for truth, for honor. She lowered the rifle. Killing you would be mercy, and you don't deserve mercy. Ashford's face twisted, rage replacing the careful mask. You think you've won. You think any of this matters. I have connections you can't imagine. Lawyers, politicians. I'll be out in a year. Less. And then I'll come for you. For Stone. For everyone you've ever tightened. One word, quiet, calm. The dog's jaws closed around Ashford's throat. Not crushing, not killing, just holding. Ashford went very still. You'll spend the rest of your life in a cell, Kira said softly. But before that happens, I want you to know something. She leaned close, close enough to smell his cologne now mixed with blood and fear. My father didn't beg. I know that now, because I know him. Through his friends, through his legacy, through the warrior he raised me to be. Her voice hardened. He died fighting. He died with honor. And his daughter didn't need saving. She stood. Titan loss. The dog released, stepped back. Ashford gasped, touched his throat, found blood but not the killing wound he'd expected. You asked who was going to save me, Kira said. I told you, I'm the weapon. But I was wrong about one thing. She looked at Titan. The dog looked back at her, tail wagging despite his wounds. Absolute loyalty in his eyes. I wasn't alone. I had him. The K9 I trained. The partner who came for me when no one else could. She reached down, scratched behind Titan's ears. Who's going to save me? He was. He always was. Distant sirens, growing louder, and another sound. Helicopter rotors, multiple. Stone and his old guard. Right on time. Kira looked around the loading bay. The fire was spreading. Contractors were either down or fleeing. The arms buyers were trying to escape in one of the SUVs. She raised her rifle, shot out the tires. The vehicle slewed to a stop. Nobody leaves. The first helicopter descended into the compound. Military, not law enforcement. Stone's contacts in naval intelligence had come through. Men in tactical gear rappelled down, securing the scene, capturing fleeing contractors. And then Stone himself appeared, walking through the chaos like he owned it. 67 years old, moving like he was 40. Eyes finding Kira across the loading bay. He covered the distance in seconds, looked at her, at Titan, at Ashford groaning on the ground. You look like hell. Feel like it too. Stone's expression softened, just for a moment. Your father would be proud. Kira's throat tightened. She couldn't speak. Medical team's en route. Your SEAL team is being extracted. The operation is compromised, but we got the evidence we need. Stone looked at Ashford. And we got him. Stone! Kira found her voice. He had something. A recording. Said he kept evidence from Kuwait, from the day my father died. Stone nodded, gestured to one of his men. They searched Ashford, found his tablet, his phone, and a small device that looked decades old, a mini DV tape, labeled with a date, February 26, 1991, 2 days before Garrett Brennan died. Stone held it carefully, like it was sacred, because it was. Your father recorded this, the night before his final mission. Ashford kept it as insurance, proof of what he'd done, in case he ever needed leverage. He handed it to Kira. This belongs to you. She took it with trembling hands, held it against her chest. Watch it when you're ready, Stone said softly. Not before. The medical team arrived, started treating Kira's wounds despite her protests, wrapped Titan's leg in proper bandages, and around them the operation wound down. Contractors in custody, arms buyers arrested, evidence cataloged. But Kira barely noticed. She held the tape, the last message her father had ever left, and she waited. 3 weeks later, Kira sat in Stone's living room. Her ribs had healed enough to breathe without pain. Her face no longer looked like raw meat. Titan lay at her feet, his leg fully recovered, his loyalty undiminished. Stone sat across from her. Patch, Ghost, Bishop, the old guard. Warriors who'd answered the call one more time. On the table between them sat a small device, video player, old technology for an old recording. You don't have to watch this now, Stone said. You don't have to watch it ever. I know. Kira reached out, pressed play, static. Then an image formed. Her father, Commander Garrett Brennan, 29 years old. Same gray eyes she saw in the mirror, same stubborn jaw, same expression of quiet strength. He was sitting in what looked like a tent, desert visible through the flap behind him. Night sky, stars. Kira. His voice. She'd never heard his voice before. Not really, just recordings of recordings. Faded memories of memories. But this was him. Real. Present. Speaking directly to her across 27 years. If you're watching this, I'm gone. And if you're watching this, it means someone kept it, saved it, made sure it reached you. He paused, ran a hand through his hair. I discovered something I can't ignore. People I trusted are doing terrible things, selling weapons, betraying everything we swore to protect. I have evidence. I'm going to present it when I get back. His expression hardened. But I might not get back. There are people who want me dead, people who know what I know, And I've seen enough in this war to understand that not all enemies wear different uniforms. He leaned forward. Kira, if I die tomorrow or next week or next year, I need you to know something. I didn't die for nothing. I died fighting. Fighting for what's right. Fighting against evil, even when that evil wore the face of a friend. Tears ran down Kira's cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. You're 6 months old right now, sleeping in your crib back home. Your mother sends me pictures every day. You have my eyes, my stubborn jaw. She says you already have my temper. He smiled, the first genuine smile Kira had ever seen from her father. I don't know what kind of person you'll become, but I know this. You're a Brennan, and Brennans don't quit. Brennans don't surrender. Brennans fight for what matters no matter the cost. His voice thickened. I love you, little one. More than I can say, more than I can show. Every day I'm out here, every mission I run, I do it because I want to make the world safer for you. A world where little girls don't have to grow up afraid. A world where honor still means something. He leaned back. If I don't come home, don't cry for me. Don't waste your life mourning. Live, fight, make me proud. His eyes found the camera, found her, across decades and death and lies. And know this, Kira, wherever I am, whatever happens, I'm watching over you. I always will be. He reached toward the camera. I love you, forever, until the stars fall from the sky. The recording ended. Static, silence. Kira sat motionless, tears streaming, the tape clutched in her hands. Stone reached across, placed his weathered hand over hers. He was the best man I ever knew, Stone said quietly. And you're his daughter, every inch of you. Kira couldn't speak, could only hold the tape, hold the last piece of her father she would ever have. Titan rose, placed his head in her lap, looked up at her with eyes full of unconditional love. She buried her face in his fur, and for the first time in 27 years, she let herself grieve. 2 months later, a ceremony was held at Naval Special Warfare Command. Full military honors, 300 attendees, generals, admirals, politicians, warriors who'd served with Garrett Brennan decades ago, and young operators who'd only heard the legends. A new memorial stone was unveiled. Commander Garrett Brennan, 1961-1991, murdered while exposing corruption. Hero, patriot, father. His legacy lives through his daughter. Medal of Honor, Purple Heart, Navy Cross. Lieutenant Commander Kira Brennan received them on her father's behalf. Stood at attention as taps played, and a 21-gun salute echoed across Coronado Beach. She saluted his memorial, one final time, and then she walked away. Not from his legacy, not from his memory, but toward her future. 3 years later, Kira stood on Coronado Beach at sunset. She wore the insignia of a full commander now, head of the K-9 training program at Naval Special Warfare Group, responsible for every military working dog that deployed with SEAL teams worldwide. Titan sat beside her, old now, gray around the muzzle. His running days were over, but he still came to work every morning, still lay in the corner of her office, still watched over her with those loyal eyes. Commander Brennan. Kira turned. A young woman approached, 24 years old, fresh from K-9 training, eyes bright with the same fire Kira had carried at that age. Brooke Sinclair, her best student. Ma'am, my team just got back from Syria. Our K-9 detected 3 IEDs that would have killed 20 Marines. Command wants to put Ajax in for commendation. Kira smiled. Ajax deserves it. So do you. Good work, petty officer. Thank you, ma'am. Learn from the best. Sinclair saluted and jogged away. Energy and determination radiating from every step. Stone appeared at Kira's side, 70 years old now, still moving like a man half his age, still watching over her just as he'd promised her father he would. She reminds me of someone, Stone said. Yeah. Kira watched Sinclair disappear down the beach. Me too. They stood in comfortable silence, the sun sinking toward the Pacific, the same ocean her father had crossed decades ago, the same stars beginning to appear overhead. You did it, you know, Stone said quietly. Everything your father hoped for. You became exactly the warrior he knew you could be. Kira's hand found Titan's head. The old dog leaned into her touch. I had help. Stone nodded, looked at Titan. That dog saved your life. He did. Kira smiled. When Ashford asked who was going to save me, he never expected the answer to have 4 legs and 85 pounds of pure loyalty. Stone chuckled. Neither did I. When I got your transmission heard you'd been captured, I thought, he didn't finish. Didn't need to. Titan didn't give up, Kira said. They shocked him, caged him, tried to break him, but he kept fighting, kept coming, because that's what he was trained to do. She looked at the dog. The dog looked back at her, tail wagging slowly. That's what he was born to do. The sun touched the horizon, gold and crimson spreading across the sky. You know, Stone said, I never told you what your father said to me. That last night, right before he deployed. Kira waited. He said, if something happens to me, watch over Kira, but don't just protect her. Let her become what she's meant to be, a warrior, a leader. Let her fight her own battles. That's how Brennans are made. Stone's voice roughened. I tried to protect you too much, tried to keep you safe, but in the end, you didn't need me to save you. You saved yourself, just like he knew you would. Kira's throat tightened. She reached out, squeezed his weathered hand. You did exactly what he asked. You watched over me. You taught me. You were there when I needed you. She smiled. And you brought the cavalry when I signaled. Stone laughed. A genuine laugh. The first one she'd heard from him in years. Damn right I did. You think I was going to let that bastard Ashford get away with killing another Brennan? They stood together as the sun disappeared, as the stars emerged, the same stars that had guided warriors for 10,000 years. Kira touched the compass in her pocket, Stone's compass, the one from Granada. He'd insisted she keep it. Old school knowledge, father's legacy, loyal companion, and now Stone's gift. 4 things that had saved her life. 4 things that had made her who she was. I should go, Stone said finally. Bishop's making dinner. Claims he's learned to cook. I have my doubts. Kira hugged him, fierce, grateful. Thank you for everything. Stone hugged her back, then pulled away, cleared his throat. Your father's watching, you know, wherever he is, proud as hell of what you've become. He turned, walked away across the beach, an old warrior heading home. Kira watched him go, then looked down at Titan. Come on, boy, let's go home. They walked along the water's edge, the old dog moving slowly but steadily, still loyal, still present, still her partner in everything that mattered. Kira's hand found the photograph in her chest pocket, still there, still with her. Her father's face captured forever in that moment before the end. He asked who was going to save me, she said softly, looking at the photo, looking at the stars, looking at the future. The answer was always the same, Dad. I didn't need saving. She smiled through tears. You taught me to save myself, and you gave me a partner who would never ever give up. Titan looked up at her, tongue lolling, eyes full of love. Who's going to save me? Kira repeated Ashford's question one final time. She knelt, wrapped her arms around her dog, felt his heartbeat against her chest. He was. He always was. The stars blazed overhead. The Pacific whispered against the shore. And somewhere in whatever place warriors go when their battles are done, Commander Garrett Brennan watched over his daughter. Proud, at peace, his legacy finally complete.